Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Strength. This is going to be episode 4. We have Nate Bañuelos, Nikki Georgeson, and myself, Tony Pascolla, on the podcast. I want to kick it off by starting out with Nate. What has been going on? What's new, buddy?
What's up, guys? Just staying busy in Chicago. Um, we have Third Coast kettlebell classes coming up in the beginning of March, and just looking at what certs I'm going to be taking after SFL this year. So, just trying to pick up some more knowledge. It's always important, and trying to find some new ways we can apply the kettlebell and now looking into the barbell. So, um, yeah, that's recent updates.
Yeah, I'm very excited for SFL. I think I'm going to be assisting that one. Nobody's told me anything yet, so I'm still kind of up in the air, but I'm really excited to either do that or SFG2. So I'm gonna have at least one friend, you or your wife, in either or. So so it's gonna be pretty cool. But yeah, everything's going same with me. We're doing workshops at All Emotion. Gonna reintroduce barbell workshops and kettlebell workshops at All Emotion, and just some conditioning classes at Chicago Strength. Been doing a lot of stuff for like high school, like the NCSSA, and like a bunch of different stuff, high school stuff, which has been pretty cool. They have their own like strength conditioning program, which is awesome. But other than that, same old, same old. And we have somebody coming to us today from another country, Nikki Jorgensen. How's
What's up, guys?
how are things?
Things are great. And it's so weird that the last time I talked to you both, I was back in the States and now I'm on the other side, made it to Lisbon. And I've been here for about a week and I'm just letting everything sink in, just trying to feel as grounded as I possibly can. But it's just a relief to be here on so many levels. So it's been awesome and it's been super fun to set up my little 5x5 space, with my mat and my kettlebells, and it's just been awesome. It's reminded me that the more simple things are, the more clarity that you tend to have, and that's what I'm feeling, especially with movement right now. So it just feels awesome. Feels awesome to be almost like reintroduced to kettlebells in a completely different way. Like I've been doing them for 10 years, but I've never been I don't want to say confined because that almost has like kind of a negative spin off, and does not feel that way at all. But just being back in my 5x5 with my bells it's just so great. It's just so awesome. So yeah,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
pumped. I'm pumped to be here. It's awesome. And one of the things that I think for me that I wanted to talk about on the podcast, and obviously I know we've done a lot of strictly strength talk, but I think for me, especially being here, I'm looking at it a completely different way. I'm approaching it very differently personally and professionally. And I think it's been reminding me a lot of what we've talked about. So, one of the questions that I wanted to start off with, and genuinely also want to know the answer from both of my peers, is if you could tell someone one thing that they need to know about strength training, what would it be? And why do you think people overlook it?
Who you throwing to first?
I'm gonna throw it to you actually.
Oh, I gotta
I'm
go
gonna
get the
throw it
first
to
one.
you.
I'm gonna go get
Let's
the first
go.
one. Uh, my what I you kind of actually touched base on this a little bit of like getting back to some basics and like simplicities. You know, the big thing that I see with anybody that's starting out at the gym or have been going to the gym for a while, you know, they try to overcomplicate things, and the more complicated you make your training program, that means the more complicated your life is going to be. And I think we all have stressful lives. We all have things going on, and it's not all the time like what we can add to it. It's what we can take away from it, to make it better. So I think being okay with simplicity, and getting back to basics, and not chasing flashy things, you know. I can't remember who said this quote, but it's something along the lines of like, the best program is something that somebody else is doing. Like you're always chasing, like, oh
Mm,
my God, like that guy or that girl has
Yeah.
this program. Oh, there's this great new like 9-week program. And it's like you're always jumping to a different program, and it's just like you're
mhm.
all over the place. But I think, really taking a step back of just getting really good at basics and fundamentals, and not chasing numbers. You know, we want to track data, we want to see progression, which is great, but I think really just staying with some weights for a little while, you know, getting good at the lifts, sprinkling in a little variety here and there is okay, but really just making your life simple. And it doesn't have to be flashy, it doesn't have to be this crazy 12-week program every single 12 weeks, something new. You're just going to get really good at a bunch of different stuff. But if you want to really excel, you're just going to get really, really good at a few different lifts, and just being that consistent piece. So I would say, don't make your life complicated. Find, you know, some movements that you're going to do: a push, pull, legs, and some core, and just get really, really, really good at those things. But that would be my biggest advice to anybody.
Way
Nate.
to start us off, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nate.
Great answer.
It's like I don't know how your guys' screen is right now, but we're like stacked like the Brady Bunch on mine. So I'm like trying to throw it up to Nate.
We're gonna start moving.
Yeah.
um, no, Tony, I was just gonna say, like to that point, I just got my dad training with a kettlebell for the first time. You know,
That's
he
awesome.
he has in the past. He showed up to a few classes, but I think recently, just seeing him doing it more consistently is it's so sick. But all he's doing is literally a clean, a press, and a squat, and he's just like redoing that over and over and over. And it's so cool because now we just sprinkled in the swing, so now he's just like alternating days, like a clean, a press, and a squat, and a swing. It's such a simple program, but he's just loving it. And like he's already like he's like, dude, check out the guns. Like check it. Like he's he's like, check out the guns. But to your point, it's like you don't have to make it a crazy overcomplicated thing. He's just focusing on 4 exercises and making it a plan that he's hitting every week, and that consistency is going to compound. And then you can kind of go into something a little bit more specific once you kind of find out what that is. So I really like that approach. Um, I'll answer it as well. But the question, like, I guess to answer the, you know, if I can tell somebody something about strength, I think the biggest thing I'd say is that strength isn't exclusive to anybody or anybody in particular, like age. You know, like I think a lot of people look at strength training and they get pretty intimidated. They think it's like, oh, I'm going to go straight into powerlifting, or they, you know, they watch the powerlifting videos and they're like, oh, I'm going to be picking up a barbell that's way too heavy and I'm going to hurt myself, you know. I think strength training should be applied slowly. You know, like you should just be able to pick up something, pick up a weight, and just move it. Right? Like that's it's not doesn't have to be overcomplicated. And I think um, you know people get a little intimidated with a lot of the stuff that they see. So I don't think it's a bad idea for anybody to just start with small movements, small weight, and just picking up the weight to get comfortable and get moving. So that's my thing. It's like it's not exclusive to anybody. Anybody can do it. You can start at anything. You can start anywhere. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and to both of your points, and this is one of the reasons this is one of the things that like came up in my head after having just getting a couple of kettlebells and again kind of like going to Nate's 5x5 space, playing my music, enjoying my space, like having my bells. It makes me think about, and I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but this was my experience, is that at one point in time I signed up to belong to Midtown in Chicago. And I'm like, wow, so cool. It has this and it has that, it has all the toys and it has 2 floors. And like, this is going to be so cool. I actually disliked it very, very much. And it did not work for me because it always was a whole thing. It took 25 minutes to get there. It took 25 minutes to get home. People would come and talk to me and disrupt my workout. Some of the things were downstairs, some of the things were upstairs, and it deterred me from going because I'm just like, I feel like I need 2 hours in order to actually get in and out and to get my workout in. And it wasn't as efficient as I hoped, and it did not bring me the best experience because it just made it harder for me to go more frequently. So now that I'm here and I just have my bells and I have limited equipment and it's in my living room, frequency has doubled, which is ultimately like makes my life a whole lot easier. My workouts now are between like 30 and 45 minutes, depending on the day. And it just feels so much more seamless physically and mentally. So to Tony's point, like you don't always need, like I'll belong to a gym here, but it's not, I'm not solely relying on it. It's going to be a nice to have 1 or 2 times a week. But it's funny how, to Tony's point, you take away, which ultimately added more physical activity for me. So it's just super interesting that way. And I don't know if you feel that way because I know Nate, you belong to a gym and you work out from home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So
crazy how efficient the workouts are at home. Do you have to like move a foot to go pick up a weight, and you can move another foot to go put it back where you were, and you just keep your workout going. It's so seamless and it's so convenient. My
it's
workouts are like
great.
45 minutes at home because I'm not running around trying to find weight, trying to find space, and going through a crowd. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So that's the first thing that came to mind. So I'm definitely feeling that now that I have my own space here. But um if I could tell someone one thing they need to know about strength, um I would say there's no one way to get to a certain outcome. I think I don't know if you guys have had this experience with your clients, but a lot of my clients think that they have to do this and this to get to their ultimate goal. I'm like, well, you can if you want, but there's other ways to go about it. Um, Whether it's fat loss or strength or losing weight, you can get to the same outcome many different ways. And so I think, unfortunately, people overlook this and people forget to ask what they genuinely want to do versus what they feel like they need to do in order to get to a certain goal. Because in my opinion, you don't. I think there's so many wonderful coaches that do such a great job at programming and strength training. I mean, someone can come to all three of us and they're going to have a completely different experience and program, but we can probably ultimately get them to the same place. So I hope people can remember that there's no one way to strength train, and that people just remember to like ask themselves what they actually enjoy doing.
Yeah. I have this one question. You piqued my interest in this one with the Midtown story. Do you guys feel this is a little bit off topic, but I'm just curious because I feel like this is how gyms are starting to go. Do you feel that gyms the lore of like the social club inside of gyms, right? It's it's no longer a strength culture. It's
Yep.
like a culture
Mm-mm.
of a social club with a
Yep.
gym. And I think some people do it well, right? I look at the collective in like Austin, like they have like pro athletes there, all the stuff, but they have like everything else, like a coffee bar and this and
Yep.
that and whatever it
Mm-hmm.
may be. But I think like Lifetime has really changed a lot, and Lifetime Fitness is like literally like mini country clubs now, and you can spend to your point, Nikki, all day there,
All people spend all day there.
all
Yeah.
day at Lifetime or Midtown or whatever. And I think like it's good because it gets people there. Like if you're
Mhm.
there, you'll probably do something. But there's also like you get there and you might work out a little bit, but it's like being at home, right? You're trying to watch a Netflix whatever, but you're on your phone and like you're answering an email, like you're not really getting what you need to get done.
And that's exactly how I felt, is just people were there to socialize and people knew other people and they would stop and they would chat. And hey, if you can spend all day there and you're utilizing that facility, then amazing. And it's definitely then it's worth what you pay each month, because that's the whole point, is that you utilize the gym to its fullest. I was not. And the one frustration I had is that for some reason, and you guys, I don't understand this, because when I'm in the gym, I don't look friendly. I'm not pleasant. Like you don't like, there's nothing about me. There's zero about me
You're
that
in
says,
attack mode.
hey, you're welcome to come talk to me. But for some reason, so many people would stop and chat. And, sure, I would meet friends of friends and I'll throw them a what's up. And then they would end up talking to me for 30 minutes. I'm like, if you can spend all day here, that's phenomenal. But I have T minus 45 minutes to get her done. Like, I gotta go. I had my black hat on, headphones in. I'm always wearing all black. Like, I don't know what it what it was. But then I just never wanted to go because I wasn't there to socialize. And, people are hanging out and I was not a part. That's not why I obviously signed up for the gym. So it was definitely not for me. It was definitely not for me.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to notice this all around, is that the gyms, they're kind of evolving into, like you guys said, social clubs. I think that's kind of the model that they're going in the direction of. And look at run clubs, right? Like you see
Yeah.
the run
Yeah.
club, it's like the same thing. I feel like everybody is now a part of a run club, and it's more of a social thing, and it's great. Like if you can kill two birds with one stone, like you're getting to socialize and you're getting to exercise. It's great.
Yep.
But I think in terms of like trying to achieve, goals, and when you're trying your level of seriousness, I think that's why having the home gym is really nice, because you actually get to cut out all that fat if that's really your goal. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and everyone's different that way, right? I mean,
exactly.
we love community, and
Yes,
run
absolutely.
clubs do that, and there's so many other gyms around the city that have just done a really great job in forming community. But I think everyone's different in that way.
Yep.
I'm just personally not one to socialize while I'm exercising. I'm pretty in it, but sprinkling in some like your workshops or things to meet new people, but it's not something I could do every day.
Yeah.
So everyone's just different, but social scene is not for me in the gym. All right, so we're thinking, if you guys are ready, to get in some yays or nays. And I love the first one. I know Nate loves the first one.
I love the first one.
Love the first one. So I'm gonna expect Nate to really get into
Yeah,
this one.
let's
Okay.
do it.
Yay or nay? Squats are the best exercise for building overall strength.
I agree with this. I wholeheartedly agree with squat. I mean, just from my experience, I guess maybe I have I think like personal experience and just kind of seeing students and clients utilize the squat. I think if I feel like the squat is one of those exercises that you don't have to tee up too much to teach. Like I feel like every single other, like there's so many other skills that kind of, you need to really put a lot of work in to execute efficiently. I feel like the squat is one, yeah, like there's a very high level to it, but I feel like for the most part, if you were to get a day one student and you're like, hey, let's see you squat, they can do it, right? And obviously that varies like on a spectrum, right, with age and range of motion and all those things. But for the most part, I feel like squats, the compound movement in itself, like what you're attacking and what you're doing when you're utilizing the movement, it's a full body lift, right? So
Yeah.
if you're talking in terms of like just pure practicality, right? Like literally bringing your butt down towards the floor and coming up, it's so practical, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also you're involving so many parts of the body when you squat that if you were to just do strength training with this movement by itself, in my opinion, I think you'd just be strong as hell. You'd be strong as hell if you build this up over time. And I've been seeing this like this quote lately. I saw it a few weeks ago. It was, if you just you pick one skill and you just train the shit out of it. I
Yeah.
feel like this skill, like if you train a squat and you just train it consistently week over week, people wouldn't realize like how damn strong it carries over. Like it makes you, but it also carries over to every other lift. Like it carries over to every other lift because you're training two amazing strength positions, the top position, like standing plank, but also the bottom position. You're training that squat position. And no, I feel like overall, if there's one thing bang for buck for strength training, I'd have to go with the squat, right?
Okay.
So, what do you guys think? I think it's Tony. What do you think? You're going to give me
Yay
a
or
hard
nay?
no?
Um, I'm gonna go nay. I'm going
Whoa.
Oh,
nay. It,
the sweat dripping down my forehead here.
I would go if I'm gonna go like this is a really good question too. It's like because that's the squat is just all encompassing of like the just the amount the weight travels too like
Yeah.
versus like
Yep.
a bench press, right? Like it's traveling a lot longer. You're under it a lot longer, I should say. But if I had to do more of like a bang for the buck, I think trap bar deadlifts. And
Hey.
the reason I say a trap bar deadlift is because with the trap bar, you're actually it's not the same as like a barbell deadlift. You're actually a little bit squatty in the trap bar. So you are going to get that squat and you're also like it's a little bit safer and you can like start loading it up a little bit more. And I think that the most power output, like of pushing into the floor a little bit more. So I'm getting that glute activation, getting the hamstrings, getting the quads, and I got to hold that sucker in my hands versus on my back. So it's the grip strength too. I think that's another piece of like if I can grip it and rip it, I'm gonna get stronger that way too. Where the
Yeah.
barbell on the back, you don't, it's just on your back. You're not gripping it. So increased grip strength, uh, glutes, quads, right? All that stuff, core, right? For bracing, and you're gonna hold that for a while as well. So if I had to put like my money on anything, I guess I would say the trap bar deadlift.
Oh man.
Let me just say
Wait,
this
wait,
though.
wait, wait. Nate's like, let me counter. I want to counter
Let me
this.
just say this though. So that's taking into account, right? Like you're talking, I think like when I guess I'm looking at this question in a different way, right? Like,
Nate,
cause
there's no wrong answer, Nate.
yeah, no, I know there's no wrong. I feel like I'm on, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? Like I need to use a phone, like a lifeline here. No, but like my thing is the reason why I say the squat too, though, and I'm gonna back it up real quick. The reason why I'm gonna say it is because you can train it as a calisthenic. That's why like I
Mm.
and that's where I would
Ooh.
start a lot of people. Like let's not even talk about load. Let's just talk about like the versatility of training it as a calisthenic as well. Like
Oh,
it's
guys.
hard it's hard to train a deadlift without weight. Like without I mean you can, but it's like it's just you're not gonna get the feedback. And I think a squat, we can train it both ways. We can train it without weight. You can train it with weight. And again, like the range of motion is it's a lot, right?
Wow,
So
both
yeah.
stellar answers, different reasons, truly.
What do you think, Portugal? What do you think?
You guys, I mean, now I mean, I'm just all over the place now after both of you gave very, very good answers. Those are definitely my top. I think it's safe to say top two for two different reasons. I am actually just going to list my favorite variation, like of the squat. If I were to go squat, I mean, Nate, I think you're spot on when it comes to versatility, right? And that's kind of where my mind was coming at as well. But at the same time, to Tony's point, you're getting more benefit from the trap bar in terms of grip and power work. But the one variation I feel like that's my personal favorite, it may not be, is the double kettlebell front squat in terms of best exercise for building overall strength when it comes to the squat, if I say yay, for sure. So I'm going to list just my variation, which is my personal favorite. Like if I had to choose one in terms of variation of squat, that's my favorite. If I can get someone in a double kettlebell front squat, I mean, to me, it's the best.
Yeah.
I talked to Sam Cha Cha. She does the bell mechanics, and one of the questions I asked her was, if you had to choose, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a really hard question for you. If you're going to have to choose one kettlebell movement, what's your favorite? And without hesitation, she goes, oh, double kettlebell front squat. I was
That's
like,
my favorite.
and she goes, yeah, right off the bat. And I'm like,
Hands
oh,
down.
not a swing, not a get up, nothing. She's like, no, like if I had to choose, like holding the weight in front of me,
Yes.
like
Yep.
independently and like
Yep.
keeping it shelved and and it's different, it's harder, So I was like, oh, okay. Because I've done and I was telling her I did a Built Strong plan and I was doing it with the barbell and the barbell on my back for most of the plan, but then I was at shift working and I needed to get like it in. I was like, all right, I don't want to set the barbell up. I'm just gonna do it with the same weight for my sorry, I was doing front squats with it, and I was like, I don't want to get all the plates out and everything, so I'm gonna do my front squats with the kettlebells today.
Yep.
And I had almost the exact same weight as what I was using on the barbell, and I actually had to go a bell size down from where I
Mm-hmm.
wanted because like Jesus, I can't hit these reps anymore because like it's so much harder. So that's a good one too, Nikki.
Well, and
Front
to
squat.
me,
Yes.
I don't know about you guys, but I have prerequisites before I put someone underneath the barbell for a back squat.
Mm-hmm.
And a goblet squat and a double kettlebell front squat are the two at a certain weight for certain repetitions for men and for women, because I've had plenty of women come to me with previous training experience and they're doing barbell back squats. But when I take them a couple steps back, I'm like, why don't we work the double kettlebell front squats, take a break from the barbell? They can't hold even their standard average weight for their size. So I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me to put someone underneath a barbell for a squat if you can't give me a double kettlebell front squat.
Yeah. I'm going to say one thing. This might be a hot take, but I think the front squat is actually should be like the norm base squat.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And now that I've really trained hard with both like most of my life, I was doing back squats because I was like, oh, that's the way that you squat. Since flipping that and going to a front squat, you're so much more vertical in that position, and people don't understand how much that trains up the squat like strength positions more. And then you go take that back to a back squat. You have a little bit more of an RDL or like a hinge in the squat. You come at it so much more powerfully and so much stronger because you've trained the front squat strength positions. And I
Yeah.
think people are missing out on that a lot because they're training the back squat is just the sexy, that's like the go-to. And there's nothing wrong with the back squat. I mean, like who doesn't love a good back squat? But again, just like training both now, I just see the carryover that the front squat gives you. Either barbell or kettlebell, right?
Yep.
One other little side note, I've also noticed like I can just skip doing front like super heavy front squat and then just do kettlebells with lighter weight, and you just get that what the heck effect. It's so sick because of that like that grip, that added grip of you having to pull the weight to you the whole time. There's no leverage. It's just your arms and your lats like locking out to keep the bells close to you. People don't realize like how much that carries over to your upper body strength, right? So,
Exactly.
just kind of building off both your guys' points. So,
wow, well done, guys.
yes.
Well,
so keep squatting
done.
and
Yeah.
also go get yourself a trap. You can actually trap bar deadlift with kettlebells. Fun fact too.
There you go.
Yep.
Yes, you can.
Yep.
Little farmer deadlift there.
Little farmer deadlift.
Oh, this next one makes me want to sweat.
I actually have a great story for this one when it's my turn, but very common, and I still hear it. Like it still very much exists for people all the time. Yay or nay, deadlifts are dangerous and should be avoided.
Well, Nikki, you went last time, so you should go first.
Well, I'm gonna say nay.
Okay.
And I would say that for most of my clients, I have had clients that have obviously had back injuries previously, but the one thing that they actually should stay away from that's not ideal for them is the swinging. It's hinging with dynamic movement that is not ideal for their back, especially if they overextend, which we don't want anyone doing. But for them, it's not worth putting them in that position when they've had certain previous injuries to their back. But one of my clients, he's the best. He has only been with me for 18 months. We were in person in Chicago. He programs with me. When he came to me, he was someone who avoided deadlifting for 3 or 4 years because he injured his back doing so. Herniated a disc or two in his low back. And continued going to physical therapy, but he just avoided legs after that. He did not train legs because he had some real fear in injuring himself again, much less going back to the deadlift. So came to me, said that I don't want to keep training this way. I want to build myself back up. I just want to make sure I'm doing it safely. I would say after a year, we kept him on the trap bar and we got him up to 325.
Nice.
On the deadlift.
Wow.
Nice. And that was still for 5 or 6. At that point, obviously, and he's great. He moves wonderfully. It was just how he was doing it, not the deadlift itself. It was how he was approaching it. And I think the biggest game changer for him when it comes to the deadlift is not just form, but actually breath.
Wow.
Breath. Getting into breath work as well. He used to be a gum chewer. So I'm like, gum's got it. Go toss your gum out. Not happening. Not gum. I will not allow gum. But it told me, when people chew gum in session, I'm like, we can't be breathing appropriately if there's gum in your mouth. So out it goes. So yeah, there's still a lot of people like that who hesitate, like him, training legs or just very fearful after injury, which is totally understandable. But it's just one of those things where he's fully capable of deadlifting, obviously. And he came a long way. So it was just awesome. Like in that moment, he and I were just completely losing it. Never in his life did he think he would deadlift again, much less getting up to 325.
It's amazing.
Pretty awesome. Yay or nay?
Tony, you want to go?
I'm gonna go nay on this one. Deadlifts are dangerous and should be avoided. Again, a lot of the points that Nikki was saying, like if anything, learning how to brace better, right, in protecting that spine and lower back. The other thing that I talk about with deadlifts is people don't realize that actually the lower back injuries are like the third like most common injury versus the first two. The first two most common injuries with deadlifting is dislocated elbow and a torn bicep and
Oh,
lower back.
wow.
Yeah, oh yeah, big time because people like
Oh,
they'll
jerk it.
jerk the bar like and they'll just have so much runway and they don't create tension and pull slack out of the bar first and then they just it's like I always give the example and I've heard this I probably stole this from somebody of like those strong men that like they take a you know how they pull a car like a truck with a rope, right?
Hmm.
And it's like they get tension on the rope before they start pulling it and the car will like not really move at first and then it'll start going. And that's like the same thing if the strong man just put the rope on his back and just like ran with slack on the rope and then as soon as it became taut it's like that you'll get jerked back.
Hmm.
um and I talk to all any clients that I have. It's like anytime I see even a little bit of like a jerky motion to get the ball, I'm like,
Hmm.
nope, put it down. But that's to me a big fear. I actually knew somebody too who dislocated their or not dislocated, they tore their bicep
Oof.
deadlifting. And it's the exact reason. I was like, well, how were you deadlifting? Blah, blah, blah. And he was showing me. I was like, yeah, exactly. Like you're just jerking the bar up as hard as you can without pulling the slack out, without creating a lot of tension. So I think
I
like, I'll go for it.
no, I usually tell people to squeeze their triceps.
Yeah, I tell them squeeze their triceps and also like pretend there's a like a squishy like a stress ball behind your armpits and then like
Yeah.
squeeze
Hmm.
that
Squeeze your
way too.
armpits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it's a lot safer. And sometimes like if you jerk the bar up and like and if you look at some of like the power lifters or people at the gym, like, yeah, that's a lot of weight that they're doing it. And it like they get the bar up. Yay. Oh my God. Like, but you're really sacrificing a lot for a PR that you probably it doesn't matter to anybody. Like spend a lot of time, like take it slow, like continue to push the floor down, um, keep and making sure that brace is good. I think the deadlift is a great exercise, and I think again, if you're doing it correctly, it's wonderful, and it's just like the squat, right? Like people are gonna see some big jumps if you're consistent with that lift, and there's a there it's so versatile like because you can also change it like staggered deadlift single leg deadlift like there's other things that you can do for deadlift and I think it's a great exercise but again it's got to be done properly but yeah shoot to Nate.
Yeah, no, I agree with both you guys. I'm gonna give this one a hard nay. This is like I think you need to learn how to deadlift, in my opinion, and I think a big reason why people avoid it is because out of all the skills that I train, the deadlift is the most closely like associated with pain. So like I
Hmm.
have people who start and they're like my last trainer or my chiropractor, they told me don't deadlift, like just skip that exercise. And I think that's, I think it's fair because I do understand where those maybe that mindsets are coming from. But I also think that maybe a lot of folks don't know how to teach it effectively. And I think you
Yeah.
really need a coach or you need that coach's eye to help you, especially in the beginning with the deadlift, because it's people don't know how to hinge their hips. They don't know how to hinge the hip by itself. They know how to squat, and that's why I say like I've 90% of the time I tell somebody, hey, just squat in our sessions. They just do it. Like it's yes, we'll fix it with some cueing, and we can make it better, but 90% of the time as well, when I tell somebody to hinge, they don't know how to like chop the butt back, like push it back. They don't know how to do that, and it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice. I also think picking up some stuff from a coach is like you need to learn that how to use your midline effectively. Like it's
Hmm.
again, we're getting a little deeper in cueing and in coaching, but these are like basic 101 things. And actually the first skill that I teach, even before I have somebody squat or press or, you know, anything, the first skill I'm teaching in session one, if you're able to, is a deadlift. I'm teaching you how to deadlift, because we pick stuff up off the floor all the time. And I have a really funny story. Is like, one of my old students back in the day, she pulled her back by picking up a pencil, and it didn't have anything to do with the weight. That has nothing to do with the weight. It's all about how she did it. It's like how you picked it up. So I taught her how to deadlift effectively. And now every single time that she goes and picks up a pencil, she pretends it's like a 200-pound weight. Like,
Yeah.
and guess what? Now she doesn't have back pain anymore, because you learned how to use your midline and you learned how to pick up weight effectively. And that's why I think if you avoid this lift, it's going to be a problem at some point. No matter what, you're going to get injured at something else, like in your strength training or your weightlifting career, if you avoid learning how to effectively hinge your hips. And that's my opinion.
Well,
But
and Nate,
yeah, go ahead.
So spot on when it comes to like, this is where you're going to want proper coaching. Like the squat, you can clean up, people get an idea of what it is, how to do it, and you know, clean it up from there. The deadlift, I mean, how many times have you guys heard someone injure themselves in a deadlift and they're like, oh, it was my fault, I wasn't paying attention. Like they are admitting that they're just kind of doing it aimlessly, which doesn't make any sense at all with what we know about the deadlift. The deadlift is the most complex movement to coach and actually do. So when you have someone kind of doing it aimlessly, that is the one movement to me that you should be giving so much intention and time towards, especially when it comes
Yes.
to your setup. And it demands so much central nervous system. There are so many things to think about. So, of course, to no surprise, someone could get injured when they're not actually trying to time all those things together. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, and to that point, I like to you want to actually reduce like the stress on the nervous system when you're learning this lift, in my opinion. So after we kind of, like, if I take on a new student and they haven't hinged their hips well before in the past, like the first thing I'm doing is actually raising the floor. Like and this is also why I love training the deadlift with the kettlebell. I'll get to it two times. There's two reasons why. But the main thing I love is that the handle of the kettlebell is like higher than like what a barbell. That's usually what somebody has been introduced to the deadlift with, is a barbell. But the kettlebell handle's higher. But then also, if you have like yoga blocks to start,
Yeah.
like I will raise the floor with the student and be like, look, we're just going to work on picking up the weight. You're going to stand up, and then you're going to set it right back where you picked it up. And they're like, wow, that feels so good in my hips and in my lower back. It's like, yeah, because you're actually hinging. Like you're actually using the midline of your body. You're actually being coached on how to do this effectively in the right way. So, no, like for me, if you're experiencing pain deadlifting, please go find a credible coach in your area who can teach you how to do it effectively in the right way. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And like, let me get to my answer real quick with the kettlebell. The reason why I also love teaching the deadlift with the kettlebell is the weight, right? Like out the gate, a deadlift on a barbell, you're at 20 kilos. And then I think for ladies, it's 35 or 35 pounds or 16 kilos, right? With that bar, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
Okay. If you learn the base with the kettlebell, we can start at like 12 kilos. You can start at 25 pounds. You can start really light. And then again, you can modify that height so easily by using a yoga block. So I think it's just the perfect tool to teach it. And then once you get really good at moving it, you're like, man, I'm not experiencing pain anymore with 25 pounds. Well, you can either do two things to increase the intensity. You can either like remove one of those blocks and just keep working that range of motion, or you just pump up the weight.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
damn, now I'm doing this with 35 pounds and I'm not experiencing pain. Well, yeah, that's how we're going to start to build this up over time. So,
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I want to make sure I'm going to skip one because I know Tony has a favorite here, and I'm going to kick this to you. Yay or nay? You can train for strength and endurance at the same time.
oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I
Yes.
love this
So
one.
Tony,
I love this one.
I want to make sure we get this one in.
No,
This
yeah.
is definitely a favorite. So Tony, yay or nay?
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely a yay. Like you definitely 100% can be getting strong, training strength and endurance at the same time. I look at all of the Ironman training, marathon training, I don't think I ever did not lift for for like programming for myself or getting advice from other people. I had my own coaches, like I had an Ironman coach that like programmed my swim, my run, whatever. And he would give me some like it was just part of the program that he sent me was like the lifting and I was looking at the lifting. I was like, this is this is nothing. Like it's nothing. It was just like some core work and like it was some stability stuff and I forgot what else it was. It was like nothing really with it was all like body weight stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm reading through this and I'm like this doesn't I feel like yes, you want to devote time to the bike in Ironman training. You want to devote time to the swim, the run. You got to make sure that you're hitting, either that amount of time frame out there or miles or yards, whatever it might be. But everybody has this annotation that's like, oh, if I'm a runner, like it's going to hinder me to strength train. I'm like, absolutely not. I have right now, one of the high school students that I have, and he is for middle school multiple state champion. Like he's a multiple time middle school state
Wow.
champion. As a freshman, a very, very high level cross country. He's about to get into the track season, and he's been coming to me since last summer. Since last summer, he's been coming to me, and I was talking with him. He's doing some indoor track right now before the season starts, and I was just having a conversation with him, like, "Oh, how's your times? How's everything going?" He likes the 800 and stuff, and he's like, "My times are so much faster. I'm so much faster." And I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "And I think it's because of this. I think it's because
Oh
I'm."
yeah.
And he's consistent. At least 3 days a week, he's coming in, and we're doing very basic stuff. We're doing some trap bar work. Where he's just learning. He just learned. He was doing lots of goblet stuff. We just got him to a barbell back squat because he wanted to learn it. We were doing some bench pressing because he wanted to learn. Not to say bench pressing is going to make his times go up, but he's learning different lifts. He's not getting fatigued from running so much. We're doing some single leg stuff like that for him has been great, and I think the people want this. There's also this version of what is like a quote unquote like a Nick Bear, like I'm a hybrid athlete, right? I think you
There's a
could,
lot of that these days.
There's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah,
It's
Holy
coming.
I'm a
Yeah.
moly.
hybrid athlete. It's just like I think it should be that's just an athlete, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just being an
The
athlete. Like you're
difference.
able to be conditioned and like I always say this, like I didn't do an Ironman to get physically fit. I did Ironman to complete an Ironman. Like that was my goal. I think there's chronic weightlifting and there's chronic like cardio. And I think you got to find a balance of the both, in order to like actually lit for longevity reasons, you know, you should not be hitting crazy intensity with weights all the time. You shouldn't have these crazy efforts. You will be so surprised. I know I'm getting on a tangent here, but you get so surprised, like if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, because I did a lot of heart rate training, of how much you are actually pushing beyond the threshold that you should
Yep.
be when you're running.
Yeah.
There's the methadone method is you just take your age minus or your age and you take that from 180, right? And that's your zone. That's your top limit. And I can easily run way over that, but I'm actually going over my threshold of what I should be training at So getting
Yeah.
people to learn how to just train at a lower heart rate and stay there. And you're not going to be going fast at first. You're not. Like, it just is what it is. But there's this like delayed gratification of like, I'm going to take my time and get really, be consistent at this heart rate. And over time, your heart rate will stay the same, but your pace will increase. So I think people don't strength train and endurance run because they blast themselves so much
Yeah.
in the
Exactly.
run that they're like they have nothing left to do some strength training. They're like, I am gonna get hurt because I am sore. Well, you pushed way too much. So there's this kind of that you got to find the right dose of each. And I think it's great to go out and run 4 miles, but just know like if you sprint that or you go really hard, like you are going to be sore and you probably shouldn't train the next day. But if you're going at that right effort amount and you're smart about it, I think it's a great way to just be an all-encompassing athlete. And I think you can still stay strong. If you're programming like in like for races, yeah, my lifts aren't going to be as frequent. They're not going to be as, a big,
Intense.
yeah, they're not going to be this big
Yeah.
effort a lot. I'm not going to put like 300 on my back. But I would do lighter weight for a little bit more of the reps. I was getting into like the 12, 15, even 20
Yeah.
reps at something lighter because that I'm going to be using those muscles for a very long time for a 15-hour race. So it's okay to do strength endurance. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be hitting my deadlift PRs during those times of racing, but when I'm not racing, I like to, I'm going to keep strong. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing, and to be honest, what I did a lot for Ironman training because all the gyms were closed at this time when I was like a full year into training,
Oh man.
double clean squat press. Swear to God, clean
There
squat
you
press,
go.
double 24s, rounds of 5, clean squat press, clean of everything, and then I was getting up to high. No, I mean I was doing 100 clean squat presses in a session, and it just like it was before iron cardio was a thing still, but it was just like very much like do my 5 cleans, 5 squats, 5 presses, boom, put the bells down, shake it out, go back again, and I was doing that, and I think that's why I was successful. I mean, I didn't have a great time in the Ironman by any means. I was 15 hours, but
Oh my
I
God.
but I felt I ran my race though. I ran my race. I felt good. I wasn't injured. The next day, I felt like I could literally. I swear to God, I'm like I could do this all over again. I felt that good the next day. Like,
No
Oh
freaking
yeah.
swear
way.
to
That's
God.
Oh yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So that's a
Yeah.
long-winded answer for that, but yeah.
No, it's good. It's an awesome answer, Tony. Um, I I want to answer this because I feel like I have a pretty unique perspective with endurance training, right? Like I started my entire health and fitness and wellness journey as like an eighth grader who watched Rocky, and I wanted to go out and I would go blast myself with 1 mile runs when I was 13 and 14 years old, and then I hated it. So,
Yeah.
so let me first preface though, like by saying, can you strength train? Like, if you can strength train and endurance train at the same time, yes, you can. And I think I think last year was my biggest, my most awesome learning experience. Learning that I can combine these two and make it a fun, well-rounded program. What I was doing as I was getting older, though, I was mixing these on the same day. I This is before I had any of my not the knowledge that I do now. But I would strength train. I would deadlift in high school, and then I would go run 2 miles around the track. And I was like, I can't explain it, guys. I was absolutely wrecked. I was wrecked, and I was a wrestler. I was in football. Like, I created. I don't know why I thought this would have been a good idea, but what it did for me is it created a really negative relationship with endurance training and with running in general. Like I said, when I was a kid, I was like, man, I'd go for these 1 mile Rocky runs and listening to, Flying High. Now, I'd do that whole thing, and like, dude, I'd blast myself running. And I think last year I was like, you know what, I'm gonna really learn how to implement endurance training. Um, because I was running 10Ks. I run 10Ks like once a week. Once it gets a little nicer outside, I'll run 10Ks.
Nice.
But last year, I was like, I want to run my first half, like my first double digit. I never ran past like double digit numbers ever. But it was really cool to like create that program for myself. All I did, it was super simple. I was like, I'm gonna run on my run days, and I'm gonna strength train on my strength training days, and I will kind of figure it out in between. And what ended up happening was, as I started to do my endurance training, I would run one day. I would maybe strength train the next day. Like Tony said, I wouldn't put too much into those strength training days, because when you run, it requires an insane amount of energy. Like people think running is just like, oh, because everybody's doing it now. Like it's like a joke.
Yep.
It's not a joke. Like running is a very intense exercise.
It's not
a
drill.
Very intense exercise.
It is not a drill.
It's not. And then it also requires coaching. You need to learn how to run. And I'm sorry I'm using running here, but this is my experience with endurance training. But what I'm trying to say is, like, you need to learn how to run effectively, regardless if you get a coach or not. But what I did was I split these two on 2 different days. I'd strength train on one day, I'd run on the next day, take a break, strength train, run. So that my 4 days, what used to be 4 days of like strength training, became 2 days of strength training, 2 days of cardio. And I ran that all the way until I got to my half. When I got to my half, guys, I honestly, it was easy. It was like a joke. And the reason why it was easy was because, and this is such a testament to strength training and what Tony said, is I had built so much resiliency in my joints and my muscles from strength training all those years, that the carryover was so real that, like, all I had to do was just show up and hit my numbers when I ran. And I had to run the right way, though. So yes, you definitely can train both at the same time. I also want to say one thing is, if you're starting your journey, just focus on maybe one at a time and then start to sprinkle the other one in, because it can be very overwhelming to do both at the same time right away, because they're 2 different energy systems. They require your nervous system to work in 2 different ways. So you need to be mindful of that, especially in the beginning of your health and wellness and your fitness journey. And that's what I would have told my little 8th grade self, is like, just focus on one thing, bud, like, and take it slow. So, I hope that answers that question. I just love that's a great question. Whoever wrote that, great job.
Thank you.
Nikki.
Thank you. Well, I actually took a poll. It was really interesting. And, I took a poll a long time ago, and it was just really interesting on, I think I asked people what they felt like they needed to improve on. And I wrote a list of strength training, endurance, nutrition, and then recovery or something else. Endurance blew it out of the water, of people feeling like they need to improve their endurance. And I appreciate both answers, because I think people just most of the time get stuck on how they think running is, for some reason, the only option. And I don't know why that's like the standard for people. It's like, oh my God, I ran a mile. I could hardly run a mile and I was so gassed. I'm like, well, yeah, because that's hard. And especially if you don't do it regularly, and if you're just running 2 to 3 miles out the gate. Like you said, running to me is also not a drill. Like, if you guys have seen my last stories, I'm trying to find running shoes right now, because I'm running a 6 miler next month. And as a person who hasn't run and does not run, it actually makes me a little nervous, because I want to make sure that I'm going to be supported and comfortable. And it's a lot on my joints. And I want to make sure that I'm starting real slow and real small. And then to your point, Nate, I'm only doing 2, maybe 3 days of beginner kettlebell at home work, like real minimal. And I'm going to have to feel it out. But up until this point, I haven't run, like, actually gone. There may be one summer I went on like some sort of a running bender. I haven't run in 10 years. I have never been a runner. So this is a great challenge for me. I'm excited, but my point is that I want to remind people that there's so many different ways to go about improving your endurance, and it can be done very minimally over time. it's truly like I used to box and then I did kettlebell work. I was super strong in both. My endurance was really stellar at, both of those times. And I would only box one or maybe two times a week for 30 minutes. And even 30 minutes of straight boxing is real exhausting,
Yes.
especially when you're starting. 30 minutes feels like 2 hours. And yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So that was really challenging, but you don't need to take an hour cardio kickboxing with burpees and this to like boost your endurance. Like give it 20, 30 minutes 2 times a week and endurance will improve and it will actually be more efficient for your systems. So yes, you can 100% train both at the same time. 100% yay.
Yeah, and
Hands
I
down.
want to just say something on that. Like, I'm sorry I brought up running. I don't mean it because it sounds like pretty ignorant to tie running to endurance all the time. Because again, it's not the only way to train endurance. It's not the only way.
No.
People, I was actually introduced to stairs in the last like couple of years as well. I love the Stairmaster for endurance. I'm
You
sorry. I'm one
freak.
of those psychopaths.
You freak.
I
No,
love it.
thank you.
I love
No,
it.
thank you.
But again, like I learned
Yes.
how to zone train on, I applied the same thing I learned from running where it's like, Tony brought up zone training. I want to talk about it just a little bit really quick because it's such a great tool to really gauge where you're at in your endurance journey. Because a strength journey is one thing, but an endurance journey is another thing. And like I use the zone tool, which is really learning about your heart rates and your thresholds. If you train in zone 2 when you run in the beginning, it'll teach you so much about where you're at and where you need to go with endurance because it gives you a metric. So, like people, again, they attack these endurance bouts with swimming, stairs, cycling. I mean, anything really, anything to get that heart rate going over time is endurance training. Technically, you can endurance train with kettlebells, but
Fact.
point I'm trying to say is use something and follow a program just like strength training. I know that we sound like a broken record, but use something and follow a program like a zone tool to really gauge and learn where you're at in your endurance journey, especially in the beginning, and you can
Well,
apply
and
it to anything. Yeah.
to give people an idea, Nate, I don't know if you guys use this. Obviously, I use it when I put people on the sled or when you're wanting them to stay in zone 2. Zone 2 is a zone where you should still be able to speak to someone.
To
You should
speak.
still be
Yep.
able to get a couple sentences or a conversation coming out of your mouth. So, just for people who don't know, where they're at in terms of being in zone 2, if I cannot, if I'm huffing and puffing and can't get a word out to Nate or Tony, then I am past that threshold.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like the run clubs because they teach people like when everybody's chatting and they're running, I'm like, oh, all these people are in zone 2. That's why you guys
Yeah.
like to run
Yeah.
in run clubs.
Yeah.
Shout out 312. All right, go
Three
ahead.
run
Go
two.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say this is all great advice for people. And my one thing too is, and I mentioned like not overtraining on that run and not like pushing too hard, but like everybody gets so caught up. If you want to go into the route of like signing up for 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, whatever, like unless you think you're gonna win the thing, like
Yeah.
nobody cares about your mile time,
Speed pace.
your splits.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, man. Like if you're going just because you want to have some fun and you want to go race and you want to like do it with your friends and maybe it's like a goal, every week you shouldn't be looking at your Strava and being like, well, I need to go faster. I need to be better. My splits aren't that great. No, man, just run your race. It's your life. Run your race.
Love that.
I get kind of frustrated with people. They're talking about, I'm not going to say the person. I know them. They're like they're a friend of the friend group or whatever. But anytime somebody says in like a group like, "Oh, I'm going to do a marathon," the first thing this person says is like, "Oh, what's your mile time? What's this? What's that?" And they're like, "Oh, it's this, whatever." Like, "Oh, did you do a marathon?" "Yeah, I trained for 3 of them, but I got hurt." I swear to God, that's always his answer. And I'm like, "Yeah, because you're just probably just chasing the numbers, just like Nate, you said it like we're a broken record, just like strength training. Don't worry about the PRs, right? There's times and places for that, but like the consistency and good work is the most important, and have some fun with it. One of my favorite things to do when I travel is to like go out and explore and run like at a light pace around town. Like that's just for me,
Yep.
that's one of the things that I love to do if I'm traveling. So I don't want to be like winded, whatever. So I do train my running here and there, and it's a fun thing. But like, who gives a shit about your mile time? Nobody
Yep.
cares. Nobody,
Nope.
unless you're gonna win the thing, you're gonna win that turkey trot, right? Whatever. Nobody cares.
Yep. Yep. Hands down. Hands down. I appreciate that. And that's why I'm running next month. We're just gonna have some fun doing it with
Exactly.
friends, and we're gonna have a
Good,
good time. If I cross the finish line,
good,
it's a good day. And then we pastry and coffee.
man.
I'm just
Yeah,
in it for the pastry and coffee.
hell yeah. I
That's it.
I I just want to say as well, like I think endurance training is so good for the human spirit. Like I feel like strength training it's like a it's a very it boosts the ego a little bit. Yeah, hell yeah. But I feel like endurance training is also so good for the human spirit because you can just show yourself how far you can push yourself if you just stay
Yeah.
committed to very simple programming, very simple like bouts of exercise. And like it's so good for your damn heart and it's just so good for you. And also endurance training, if you get really good at endurance training, it builds up your strength training, believe it or not, right? Like people again don't realize that when you oil and get that engine firing your heart better with endurance training, your strength training is just gonna blow up. Like it's crazy. It's the foundation, right? So no, Nikki, good luck. And if you
Thanks.
if you need anything, like
I'm gonna
I
text
think
you.
you have Tony. I mean, you have Tony
I'm
here,
gonna
who's
text
Mr.
you guys for
Ironman.
sure.
But
Yeah, we have
hell yeah,
Tony, to your part, we have a gorgeous park that's near our house, and it's huge. I mean, it's actually, it looks like a rainforest, but and I cannot wait to go through there, but at the same time, it's hard to run through there because it's not a flatlined
Hmm.
space. So, it's not something that I'll probably utilize when I go on the longer side of my runs, but at the same time, like I have to. It's just so awesome in there. Headphones in, get a jog on, and I'm pumped. So it's pretty gorgeous.
the best time to listen to house music, man. I swear to God. I swear. That's how I curate damn DJ playlist. Let's go.
Yeah, I actually, good call. I got to get a good playlist ready for sure. So I'll definitely be hitting you guys up. I get my shoes
Oh,
in pretty soon,
let
so
let's
I'm
talk
ready.
strength Spotify list. Why haven't we thought of this before?
Oh,
I got I,
We
oh,
I
could
got some
attach it
I
to
got
the
some
show notes. Everybody could just see, feel our
crazy
yes.
podcast.
jams.
Let's go. I got some crazy playlists, guys.
Oh,
Tony's
this is
got some
gonna be
sick
good.
ones, man. Tony's got some sick ones.
I
I
got a
I need
couple.
I need some
Nikki, I
new
gotta see
tunes for my
yours.
runs. Oh,
Nikki's got some too. I remember I
I'm
went to
just saying.
the
I
Lululemon workshop and you were blasting whatever playlist. I mean,
Yep.
I came for the kettlebells, but I stayed for the music.
I really take my playlist
Hey,
very seriously. I take my playlist very seriously. I really do.
hell yeah.
They're legit. They're legit. All right, guys. What do you think?
Yeah,
That was perfect. Perfect.
That
great.
was awesome. That was really awesome. Appreciate you guys. I love the yay or nay. I think this was great. I love it. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks for curating this episode, Nikki.
Anytime. It was fun.
I'm up next, guys.
Nate's up next.
Let's go.
Yeah. Well, for everybody that is listening, we're gonna try to be doing these episodes once a month and releasing them. So just to be consistent with that and to get all of us on and anybody have anything coming up big before we close out here that you want to announce?
Yeah, I'll have a bigger announcement next podcast. Hopefully, fingers crossed. It's already done. It's just I can't. I'm not the one who can announce it. But we got March 9th, Third Coast Kettlebell. Come through. There's only really a few spots left. I think there's 6 as of right now. So if you want to get in that and come out and learn some new kettlebell skills, or meet the family in Chicago that's growing, just slide through and come get your butt kicked and learn some new stuff.
Love it. That's awesome. I'm just living it up in Lisbon right now. I'm just trying to get a feel for everything right now. So lots coming to the app, and then hopefully in the future doing some courses and seminars when it comes to nutrition, and that'll be all online.
Nice.
So anyone and everyone can join.
Nikki, I did drop your name in my last podcast episode with about your seminars too, and everybody, and the person I was talking to was like, "Oh yeah, I listened to that episode. They're like, I loved it. It was great." So I just wanted to let you,
Awesome.
I forgot to tell you I did name drop you in that
Oh,
episode.
thank you. I love that.
Yeah, but
I love that.
for myself, I'm just gonna be doing a little bit of podcasting. I got like a good lineup coming up. I got Hunter from KBCU coming up on the podcast, so it's been
That'll
fun
be
getting
awesome.
talk to a bunch of people and workshops in Chicago still, and then this summer once we get done with the school year, I'll be definitely getting more face to face with group classes and clients. And I just last year I didn't coach as much, just took the time off, but I miss like just getting back into the gym and just coaching bells or just coaching strength training. So I'm excited to do that. It's gonna be awesome.
And I'll just be waiting for you guys to come to Lisbon.
We
Oh, yeah.
got possibly Italy. I mean, that'd be
Or see you
cool.
guys in Italy.
That'd be cool.
Oh man, Nikki, enjoy that.
Enjoy
Thank you.
Lisbon.
Enjoy
Thank you
it.
so
Have
much.
fun, and we'll definitely be planning that trip soon for sure.
Yeah. All
Fun.
right.
All
Love
right,
it.
guys.
All right,
Have a good
everyone.
day. Have a good weekend. Happy Sunday, guys.
Happy
Happy
Sunday.
Sunday.